Good morning, folks. Ben Parsons with Remax Property Pros. I sell real estate in the northern Wisconsin counties of Oneida, Vilas, Lincoln, Forest, and Price. And since we missed our Saturday Wjjq spot due to technical difficulties, we were able to hook up with Jeff this morning and go an extra long spot. So stick around and listen to that, and let me know if you have any questions about what we talked about.
17 minutes after 8. Ben Parsons, the man for land on with us from Remax Property Pros. Good morning, Ben.
Good morning, Jeff.
Ben, what do you know on this warm Monday morning?
Well, I've got a question for you, Jeff. Are you a social media guy? Do you have a favorite social media platform?
Let me put it to you this way. I'd rather lay in a sewer all day than go on social media for a minute.
Okay. All right. Well, some people can't blame you there, but when it comes to information and obtaining information, really I don't want to say social media is the best way to obtain, what's going on in the world, but it's a good way to get out in the world, your thoughts, your opinions of what's going on. But as far as news goes, I actually prefer to go online, and I like to read the news that I take in from multiple different sources and come to my own conclusions. But then, when it comes to business and how I portray projections and what's going on with the market and things, I try to pull information from multiple different sources and sometimes conflicting sources, and just take that with a grain of salt, because sometimes the information that's out there is a little skewed from one direction or the other. So it's good to pull information from those different sources, read between the lines, come to your own conclusions and projections, and move forward with that. And we're doing the same thing here with the real estate market, and with what's going on and what we expect to be happening and what we've seen and where we're headed. And the good news about real estate is it's actually pretty predictable. It tends to take a pretty major unexpected event to impact the housing market. And we've seen that, throughout history, all the way back through the Great Depression and beyond.
Okay, I guess I agree with that.
Well, the good news is we know that the real estate market, mortgages, it's all cyclical. And what we're seeing is that if you think about, let's just use 5% as kind of what a lot of people are sitting on their thumbs waiting on. And if 5% is what someone's waiting on, probably the only way they're going to see that for a very long time is to ask a seller who's willing to negotiate to buy their rate down into that range. Otherwise, things have got it. Something big and bad's got to happen, and we've got to see some pretty rough economic conditions before mortgage rates are going to dip down that low again in the next several years. But we're seeing there's a source that I like to look at. It's called NerdWallet, and it's a great source for financial information. But NerdWallet is projecting that this year 15% of people are planning to buy a home this year. Now, this is a pretty high projection. I mean, granted, in 2003 and earlier, we were looking at, 20%. But 15%, that's not too bad given what we've seen interest rates do here in the last year or two. So what are your thoughts, Jeff? Now, you're a guy that's made your purchase. You're in your home that hopefully you expect to be in for a while. What are you hearing as far as the buzz around the community? And any of your friends or family looking, and they're kind of tire kicking a little bit, maybe waiting on better conditions?
You know what? No. All the people that I hang out with are all old, and they're all pretty settled into their way of life, and so I'm not sure what the young people are thinking. Thank goodness our two oldest kids are both homeowners and starting their families, and they're on the right foot. And so in my orbit, Ben, I don't really have anybody who's out there looking. I'm just glad that I'm not. I'm glad that we've made good decisions, and we put money away for a rainy day and such like that. So we're just keeping to ourselves. And I think that's generally speaking the best way to do it. Keep to yourself, do what's right for you, and not based on what other people are doing. And that's where I think too mmany people go down the wrong rabbit hole on social media. They think they know this person. They think they trust this person. Well, that person might be an idiot. And so, I think that in this day and age, Ben, I just prefer to kind of keep to myself and keep decisions close to home and close to the people that I'm closest with. And I don't care what anybody else is going through, to be honest with you. That's their battle. I got my own.
Right. Well, and the thing is with what everybody else is doing is that does impact market conditions beyond our personal circle. So I think it would probably be safe to say that most of the folks that you know that are settled in and that are just living their lives in their homes, would it be safe to say that they probably purchased the home prior to, let's say, 2021?
Yeah, they're all sitting on a nice low mortgage.
Yeah, and that's a huge part of our inventory problem. And you know what? It's the same with me personally. When rates really dipped down there, we were able to snag a very, very low rate of 1.98, and we actually cut our mortgage time in half, and the payment didn't change. So you're sitting on a place that here pretty soon we're going to have a home that's paid for, and for folks that are our age and aren't outgrowing the home, my kids are almost grown. And so if anything, Ann and I would be looking at downsizing here in the next 5 to 8 years versus, getting something bigger. Again, things can happen here in the next 5 to 8 years as far as inventory and rates and that sort of thing. But yeah, there's a lot of folks out there that captured that opportunity to seize that 3 and below rate. And when you're sitting on a rate like that and you look around at what the last rate dip did to prices, that is a huge problem when it comes to our inventory. Is there's a lot of folks that just say, you know what, we got a great rate or we're paid for, and we don't want to compete with the prices and the demand that's out there right now. We're just going to stay put. The thing is, life changes. People have more kids. They need a bigger house. Kids grow up, move away. They need a smaller house. And the good news is that if you were in that house and through the pandemic and the low rates and the refinancing and all that, the good news is the value of that property, the equity that you've got in that property has increased as well. So we're not talking apples to oranges. We're not talking what you paid for it back in, the early 2000s or 2015 or even longer than that, the 90s, let's say. We're not talking about those markets and those prices. We're talking about today. So you're actually taking the value of your home and looking at homes of, the next move, and it is an apples to apples. So at least you've got that equity to work with when it comes to making that next move and that next decision.
Ben, I think it's a generational thing, too. I come from the generation that never had credit cards, never ran up credit card debt, so I never got into that issue. But I think kids are starting on that earlier these days. Adults are starting on that earlier these days. So they've got that black eye. Everybody needs to be seen in a nice car. I drove beaters my whole life, Ben. I didn't get a new car until I was in my 50s. And so, so I think it's a generational thing, too. And I never let the interest rate bother me when I was looking for a house. I wanted to be a homeowner because I knew that's how I was going to get ahead. Did I get the house that I wanted right off the bat? Well, no, that was too much, too expensive. The interest rate was too high, blah, blah, blah. So I brought it down to where I could afford it, and I got in the market. I just don't know that a lot of folks are willing to do that these days. They're waiting until the perfect thing comes along. It's got to be awesome. It's got to be the perfect place. And I think if people are going to have that attitude, they might be waiting on the sidelines a long time.
Very well could be. Very well could be. And, that's funny that this year we've seen about 33% of the homes on the market out there have already lowered their price from either their original list price or what they listed for here at the beginning of the year. So we are seeing a reduction quite a bit in some of these list prices before they're moving. So you're definitely onto something as far as what society is thinking and where society has gone, where financial responsibility has become less and less of a priority, not to everyone, but it seems like the general consensus, folks are wanting to be in a nicer car or a bigger house or a nicer boat or just a boat to begin with, and they're willing to go into debt for it. And as long as banks and lenders are willing to look at, income, potential income, where they are financially, and willing to loan that money out, then unfortunately it seems like more and more people are willing to go into debt and be in debt for a very long time. And Jeff, it's not a great way to build net worth and wealth.
I think as an old guy, Ben, I think that the best advice I could give anybody who is younger than me, first-time home buyers, I would say lower your sights a little bit. Be willing to do an awful lot of work and put some sweat equity into that place. Then you might be able to get on board with something and get into the home ownership game and get all that wealth building potential that owning a home has. But boy, you better set your sights maybe a little bit lower and just plan on rolling up your sleeves and doing a little bit more work.
Absolutely. That sweat equity, boy, that is definitely something that will pay off in the long run. And when we talk about real estate and the market, the long run is definitely the most important thing to consider. If you're willing, emotionally ready, financially ready, and you want to buy a home, then buy a home if you're ready. And but be willing to sit on that place for at least 5 years. 10 would be even better before you make any kind of major changes when it comes to your real estate investments, because it does take that amount of time for things to really turn around sustainably.
And the other piece of advice from this old dog to some younger dogs is hire a real estate professional, and that way you do it right the first time. You don't have to learn any valuable mistakes because of mistakes that you made. And so I say hire a guy like Ben Parsons.
Well, I appreciate it. And, the thing is most of us real estate professionals, we're closing deals on a weekly basis, whereas if you're not in the industry, you're maybe doing this, 2, possibly 3 times in your lifetime.
Yeah.
Some people just do it once in their lifetime. So a lot of things change over the years. You want to go with somebody that has definitely closed a lot of transactions, that has seen a lot of stuff, and when problems arise, know how to handle it because they've been there, done that.
Yeah, amen to that, Ben. How can people get a hold of you?
The best way is a call or text to 715-550-5683 or shoot an email to benthemanforland@gmail.com.
Good stuff today, Ben. Thank you very much. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Jeff. Take care.
You're welcome. All right. Ben the Man for Land Parsons from RE/MAX Property Pros. He works out of the Tomahawk office an awful lot, but he can be found in other offices too. There's an office here in Tomahawk, Monaco, Boulder Junction, Eagle River, and Three Lakes. They have the Northwoods covered at RE/MAX Property Pros.
Thanks for tuning in. If you have any questions about what we talked about this morning on WJJQ or anything else real estate related, be sure to give me a call. I'm Ben the Man for Land with RE/MAX Property Pros.